Hi, it's Lili Amanda for Portrait Creatives. In this episode, we are going to talk about levels. Levels is something very easy to use and easy to understand. So if you are just starting retouching, and I highly recommend you start with level. So let me take you into Photoshop to show you how you can use levels. So now I'm in Photoshop. There are a couple of ways to use levels. First, you can go to Image, and you can go to Adjustment and choose Levels. But if you choose in this way, it will just apply to the image itself immediately, and you cannot alter it afterwards. What is the better way to do is add adjustment layer with level. So you can come here and choose Levels. Okay, this is an additional level on top of the image, so you can actually go back to change the setting if you want, instead of apply on the image itself. This is called non-destructive retouching, and all these adjustments here are all designed for you to do adjustment, and you can go back to do more adjustment if you want. But the adjustment over here from image and adjustments here, you can only apply to image itself, and if you don't change it to small object, you will not be able to edit again to change your settings, what you did before, okay? So this is very, very important. If you don't understand all that, don't worry about it. Just go here to add adjustment layer, okay? Levels. So I just add one here. So let me show you how you can utilize it. This is the image histogram, and you can see this is the midtone. One is at the midtone. This is 0. This is 255. 255 is the brightest point. 0 is the darkest point. If your image data hit here or hit here, that means no data, no information. This is the midtone, where all the data, midtone is all here. On this side is all darker than midtone area. Even if you don't see image, you should able to guess this image is a dark image just from looking at the histogram. So these three triangle points are designed for you to change where you want the brightest point and where do you want the darkest point and also the midtone. For example, I want my brightest point to be here. That means I want to brighten up all the image. If I move it to here, and from this point to the right hand side, these data all become the same. They blown out, they have no data, okay? And you can see that according to that, the images here, these are all the brightest parts, they have no data at all. And then it's the same with the darkest point. If I want to change to have the image, like I want all this data all become dark, no data, then I can just move it to here. And all this data will become just 0. There's no detail. No data means no details. So this triangle is designed for you to change the midtone. I want to change my midtone to here. Then you will see all this area become the darker area, and only this area is brighter than the midtone, okay? And the same is here. If I change it to here, that means I want only this area is darker than the midtone, and rest of the area here, I want it brighter than the midtone. And that's the image result, okay? That's what these mean and how you can utilize it. I'll just change it back to 1, okay? So how do you utilize it? For example, if you see this image, I think it can be brighter, right? Because the brightest point is over here. So I would just drag it near it, the brightest point, so that in this way I can brighten up the image. Level is very, very good to show you where exactly your data, where you can move your brightest point and the darkest point. Okay, this is something really, really good to utilize. It's very intuitive, I would say. And this bar, from the darkest to brightest, it's actually opposite to how these 2 points work. This actually means the darkest point and also the brightest point. But I want the brightest point to be not this bright. I want to change it to one of these, and I just scroll this way. I want the brightest point to be like this gray tone, not this bright tone anymore. I want the point to be here. So you'll find that the image over here, the brightest parts will fall on here. Okay, it's the same with the black point. If I say I want the darkest point to be this shade of gray, and I move it to here, and you'll find the darkest point of the image will fall here. Everything else here will move up to here. You can see there's an exclamation mark. Just click on it. It will refresh the histogram. Okay. This image is clearly, you can see this is a little bit too dark, so I'm going to just adjust it to make it brighter. But I do not want the skin to be blown out, to have no details. So I will stay here instead of drag it over here. Drag it over here, you see there are some data, there are some pixels already blown out. So I would just move it here. Okay, that's a skin tone. She's not too pale, so I would just stop over here. If you want to learn more about histogram, I have another video. I will leave the link in the description. So you see here are 3 eyedroppers, and the middle one is mid-tone. That means you can actually tell Photoshop where you want the middle gray to be. The neutral gray is the 50% of gray, where you want it to be. The gray tone will be very similar to here. I think 50% of gray, maybe here a little bit brighter. It probably be here, right? If I tap on it, this is the color it would change. You see before and after. So if I say I want this background to be gray, so I will use this mid-tone eyedropper, just click on here. And this area of backdrop will become gray tone. And rest of area, according to it, to change the color. If this is gray, this the skin tone would look like. But if I want her hair here to be middle gray, then let me just try here. Then everything else will change as well. Like the brightness will go to mid-tone according to that point I just picked. And also her overall skin color and overall color in the picture will change to what I decide where is the gray mid-tone. You can also use this eyedropper to change different colors as well if you want. You can play with the color if you want. You can change it to different tone, different color, explore it. And the brightest point maybe is her cheek here, all right? If I click on it, it will brighten up all the image. But if I use the black one, like let's say it's the darkest point probably here. And that will be the darkest point. And using this method is just stretching all the pixels to the very end. This white and black eyedropper is designed to stretch all the pixel distributions to the 2 ends. So you can see the image originally I took was, let me just go back. You can always click this to go back to original. The original image I took is like the distribution is like this. And this 2 eyedropper is designed for you to stretch it out to hit the brightest point and the darkest point. But this is not necessary to do it for all the image because it really depends on what you like. For example, I want this image to be dark and moody, then I don't want my image too bright. Let's have a look at another image. And this is Nicole. I think we can just play around this image a little bit, make it a little bit more stronger and more contrasty and pop. So I'm going to add adjustment layer levels. You can see here, the darkest point is about here. So I'm going to move it to here. And you will see it's darker because from this point, it's become the darkest point. And I want to bring more detail to the white fabric. So I want to make all this white fabric darker. So I'm going to drag this one. Like I don't want them to be this bright anymore. I want them to be a bit darker. So I'm going to move them to here. So you can start to see the fabric become darker. So if I want it even more darker, I want the brightest point to be even darker. I'm going to drag this. This is the brightest point. And then I'm dragging it down. And the brightest point will go down. That means there's no pixel brighter than this point. Okay? And that looks already dramatic. And I can add a little bit more contrast here. Like here. And you will see the brightest point is not moving, it's still there. But I have made it more contrast by darkening, by dragging my slider, my midpoint slider to be brighter. That means I want more data that is dark. And that usually creates the drama. And what if I drag this one? That would just brighten up the image. If you do this, you will see this start to get blown out area here. From this point, on the right, it's all blown out, no data, okay, 0. So it's important that you use the slider to adjust to just right. You still have the details remain in the image. And if I click on this, it will update the histogram for me. So that is how it looks. That's before and after. That's much more moody and dramatic. That's just an example of how to use level more effectively. So this is just a quick tutorial about levels. I hope this is helpful for you. If you find value out of it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And I'll see you in the next episode.